Okay, call to order the Lowell City Council 7 o'clock regular meeting for Tuesday, January 18th.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes. You hear us? Okay. Let's see, yes. Roll call, please.
Mayor Bennett,
Here.
Councilor Harris. Councilor Harris, can you hear us?
Yeah.
No.
She's not here.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
We can hear you. Can you hear us?
I can't hear you.
I don't know. I've got the microphone on. Is anybody else who's joining us on Zoom, are you able to hear?
Okay, I can hear you now if I turn my speaker on, but I don't know if that's going to cause a problem.
No, you're good.
Okay,
All right, Councilor Harris is here. Councilor Stratus,
Present.
Councilor Weathers.
Okay, we have a quorum. We'll stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next up is the approval of the agenda. And I'd like to make a couple of changes to it under new business, number 1 and number 2, the presentations. I'd like to get those done first before we get into our regular city business. Any problems? If not, we'll have the presentation from City of Oak Ridge Police Chief Kevin Martin. Mr. Caller, you want to introduce anything on this?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Chief Martin or Lieutenant Ritz, come on up. Come on up, Neil. We've invited the City of Oak Ridge Police Department and the police chief to come speak with City Council tonight. Earlier this month, we heard from the Lane County Sheriff's Office, and this is part of City Council's consideration of what it would take to expand law enforcement services within the community. By the end of the month, you will have heard from 2 different agencies. My recommended next steps are in February to decide on how we want to engage the public on this topic. With that, I will pull up the presentation.
It's on page 108 in your packet, but there's not much there.
I've got a PowerPoint here pulled up.
Thank you, Chief.
And
All right. Mayor, council, and citizens, thanks for having us here tonight. Also, if there's any citizens here, there's some extra of the PowerPoint on the back table back there if you want to read along. So this is a presentation for kind of what we could do for you folks. If you go that route, general information otherwise. I think go ahead and switch slides. Just we can go over this part fast. It's just kind of an overview of the police department. We're a department of the City of Oak Ridge. And our current police services contract with the City of Lowell is 40 hours a month. But we do traffic and help with code enforcement and do some general law enforcement stuff. What we do as far as City of Oak Ridge, our municipal police department, we have a contract with you and for Westford. We have an on and off contract with the U.S. Forest Service law enforcement to assist them in the Oak Ridge area for Willamette National Forest. We do code enforcement for the City of Oak Ridge. We do animal control for the City of Oak Ridge. We have a business office for administrative stuff that's open Monday through Thursday, daytime hours. Our officers in Oak Ridge are on patrol 12 to 20 hours a day, and the officers are on call for the rest of the time to make a 24-hour day. So our officers, even when there's not one on duty, there's one assigned to be on call. So if there's an emergency call, they get called out. Next slide, please. Our current staffing, the budgeted staffing levels are a police chief, an administrative sergeant, 3 patrol officers, although 1 position is vacant right now. We're going to be testing for that. patrol officer / community service officer, and she does patrol, but she also does El Rapa, the smoke stuff for us, and does some code enforcement for us. So we have 6 full-time employees budgeted for the police department currently. We have 2 reserves right now. Lieutenant Ritz is in charge of my reserve, so he lives down here, so you're sure going to see his face a lot. He does a great job for me. And then we have another reserve. We have 2 reserves in the testing process right now. Again, this just we provide 40 hours of random patrol for your city each month. Some of your citizens know that, some of them don't know that. So we try to help them out with that. Sometimes there's confusion on who their law enforcement is. Next slide is more kind of a informational thing for you guys to look at. I took these from the FBI crime stats. This is from the year 2019. That's the last full year of FBI crime stats. There's and my skew is off a little because there was one city I missed that wasn't on the crime stats, but the city of Merrill is a little smaller than you guys, and they have 2 officers, so that would change the average there a little bit. But it took out all the departments that have police officers in the year 2019 in Oregon. There were under 2,000 people, so that's kind of some reference there of the other agencies and cities your size that have law enforcement. And this is their own police department. This doesn't count any contracts. This is the cities that have their own. Next slide, please. The average staffing for police departments less than 1,909 population in Oregon are 3.75 officers. That's the average for your size. And then there's some questions for you guys. Do you want a contracted service or do you want your own police department? How many officers do you want? How much coverage do you want? What kinds of things do you want addressed in your city / community? Do you want a code enforcement officer? Just some stuff for you guys to kick around during this process is, what do you want? What do the citizens want? Is there certain things they want, the council would want looked at more than others? That's just some questions to have. And then the next slide is what the cost. Well, the first part is our police officers' wage is, I think there's 5 steps, and the steps go from $4,254 a month to $5,079 per month. And that's just the basic step wage. And then code enforcement officer in our contract is $3,334 a month to $3,980 a month. And then the below part is an example of a I call fully loaded top step officer in our department. So their base wage, so like my top step officer, his base wage is a little over 60,000, plus he has longevity because he's been on for 6 years. So that gives him 1 longevity step, which puts him at 61,000. And then you can see the other costs are lined out there. That's how much medical with the family costs, a little bit of life insurance there. That's a mandatory thing we have. How much PERS costs, workman's comp, VIBA, that is a benefit they have. It's a medical insurance program, uniform allowance, food allowance, for a total cost of $113,037. So that's what one of my people costs top step right now. So if you were to, for instance, if we were to contract for you, I did that number because we don't know who we're going to get. We could get a lateral officer, which means they've already been trained and had some years on. They would come in at a higher price. An entry-level officer that's just off the street that has to go to the academy with, these costs would be a little different. And those costs would go up and down a little bit from this number, depending on what step that person came in to the job force. And for instance, because we have a union, one of the officers, one of my top officers could say they want to do the Lowell patrol or contract, however it is, and then the rookie officer could work in Oak Ridge, or vice versa. It would just depend on all that. So there'd be some other factors, but that'd be one of the things. And then some additional costs, patrol car and the related equipment, the officer's personal equipment. So that price I gave you right there was just for a body. That would be just a person. And then additional costs would be patrol car related equipment, officer's personal equipment, training, overtime, and administrative costs. So Most of these costs, with the exception of probably training, overtime, and administrative costs, equipment, vehicles, that type of thing, that would be like a first year cost. And then itemized out, I mean, I'm sure you guys have a fleet program too here, so you buy a car, that cost goes over 5 years, 10 years, radios, 5 years, 10 years, you know, everything has kind of some things last a year, some things last 10 years type of thing. So those wouldn't be costs every year. And if we go forward, that'd be something that I can bring back to you guys, or I could get with the city administrator. So the options I put out there is, one of your options would be to start your own police department. Another option would be to contract with us, the Oak Ridge Police Department, to provide police services. And I'm sure whatever point that would be, that would also be a negotiation between your council and my counselor, your city administrator and my city administrator. And then the last one would be kind of a hybrid, where the city will contract with Oak Ridge Police Department for more police services and then transitions to its own police department over a certain amount of time. So I figure there's a few options there if you did end up contracting with us. Questions?
Anybody?
So the only variable on that estimate, PD cost estimate, is the first line, the wage itself, everything else is set.
As far as the cost
Yeah, so
amounts,
the 5,079 times 12 is the 60,352.
yeah, there is a few variables like that officer has longevity.
Yeah.
Medical can be less because that medical amount is for a married person with children.
Gotcha.
So if you hired, if for some, and we have no control over that. If we hired a single officer that wasn't married, that price could come down substantially, because theirs is, I think, about a third the cost of the family officer.
Gotcha.
And the PERS can go up and down too. That goes up and down with the wage, the amounts of the wage, because I think for our officers, it's 28% is what our PERS cost is. So like law enforcement PERS, law enforcement and fire is a little bit higher than the other PERS employees. Also, there's another factor that could change PERS a little bit. All the people in my department currently are under OPSER. So for some reason, if we did hire, or if a person got hired that was PERS 1 or PERS 2, going back to my Washington, PERS 1 or PERS 2, their costs could be a little bit higher. So, but then like the VIBA is a fixed amount, the uniform allowance, that's by contract, that goes up $25-50 a year type of thing. Boot allowance stays the same. But some of those can go up and down as they wouldn't really go. So like currently medical does go up on us every year as far as citywide. I don't know what that cost yet will be for next year. So that happens to all of us. So there is some COLA increases as far as insurance goes up, insurance goes down, workers' comp goes up, workers' comp goes down, usually goes up, not down.
Do you guys use the same radios as the sheriffs?
Yes. We currently dispatch through Lane County Sheriff's Department. So.
That was mentioned as a pretty expensive unit, so for the radios, so I guess we're comparing.
Yes, go ahead.
Does, with your combined patrol, community services officer, does that person, if that person is taking a theft report versus, following up on some code enforcement thing, do you track those separately, or is that person just out there doing the job that needs to be done? Or?
We track those different things. We have an incident log system, and that's something I can show you guys later. Basically, every call we go to, we have a little incident log system that says date, time, place, who, what, when, where, how. And so we do track code as well as regular police calls. Like for our methodology that we have now, Officer Miller, she's my officer that does that. Her priority is law enforcement calls, but she also, part of her job is to do the code enforcement and all that. So she's busy.
Yeah. Well, what I was thinking about was the theft reports and stuff that so irritates the public that they can't have an officer take those. I was wondering if that type of person could be doing it in a community services officer role as opposed to a patrol officer role.
So Sergeant McPherson, my admin sergeant, she is my clerical person. She's not commissioned. She has the sergeant title that kind of is a lead over from when we used to have dispatch. So she does take a lot of our reports. So we pretty much take paper on everything. We don't tell people to go online. So we get and that's a model that you could do as well. One of the things I kind of had bouncing around in my head is if we were to take it, I don't know what the county would think about this, but there's a city up north that has 3 officers. They're a little bit bigger than you, but what they do is they have 2 officers that work day shift and one that works kind of a swing shift. And the county just goes to emergency calls at nighttime for them. And then any of the calls that aren't emergency calls, that officer handles the next morning when they come on duty and starts to knock those out if there's a lot or if there's none or whatever, if that makes sense. So, I mean, typically speaking, to have a decent, safe 24-hour coverage, you need about 6 officers, and that's probably not going to happen right away. So it would have to be a combo of things to get you started if that was your plan.
Well, and as we talked before, safe is a relative term, because if you've got no jail space or they beat the officer out the door, it's not safe, but at least you've taken a report. So what we were talking about before was, having officers be able to follow up on those, look at video cameras, try and piece those things together to get enough charges to actually land somebody in jail. Are you guys doing much of that in terms of video surveillance and looking and trying to match activity in Oak Ridge up with?
Yeah, we just had a case. We broke it open with a stolen car case, but we ended up getting, I think it was 45 identity thefts, mostly solved just with one case because we got a suspect on something else. And there was lots of video that was looked at from different places in town where, for instance, we had a case where people broke into a house and they were masked up, so you didn't know who it was. But earlier in the evening, they were in one of the local convenience stores and they didn't have masks on in the same clothes. So we were able to identify them that way, if that makes sense. Yeah.
And I know people's tendency is always to want to blanket the town with officers, but if there's no capacity to hold somebody.
Well, and one thing that I don't know if it's in your ordinance, but it is in ours and it is in the city of West First. We have a ordinance that converts a lot of misdemeanors to violations. So a lot of times when we get what we call a no file from the district attorney's office, they say try in municipal court. Instead of jail time, it's a $2,000 ticket. So that gets people into the system sometimes when you can't get them in any other way. And that was an ordinance. A lot of cities in Oregon have that ordinance. I mean, cities as large as Portland have it. So.
Anything else? Right now, like you say, we get 40 hours of coverage a month. If we sign the contract and the person goes to an academy, are we getting any coverage at all during that time? Or are we waiting for him to get out of the academy?
Most likely waiting to get out of the academy. That will be I've talked to the city administrator, both previous city administrator and current city administrator. That's one of the things right now with COVID that we're living in is there's quite a few people waiting in line to get finished with the academy. So
How long is the academy?
it's 4 months now.
4 months. Okay.
And then there's a time when we'll have to ride with another officer to finish what's called their FTEP. So
If that person comes on board and then he leaves, then we go through another 4-month thing, right? To the academy. Jail time. Do you pay additional charge to the county for jail time, or are you contracted for a certain number of hours? Or
if it's municipal court charges, we take people to Springfield jail and we do have to pay a cost. And I think it's off the top of my head, it's about $90 a day.
Okay.
So like most of what that's used for is 2 things for us. If our municipal court sentences someone to something, so let's say they get a DUI and municipal court says they're gonna do 30 days in jail. That's for that, and it's also for if people keep not showing up for municipal court even on a ticket, and the municipal court judge puts out a warrant for them. Our initial arrest for that warrant has to go to, well, if it's a male prisoner, they go to Springfield jail. If it's female, they go to county. But Springfield has worked out pretty good because people don't like it in Springfield.
I honestly don't know that much difference between a reserve officer and a regular officer. I figure there's more training involved. What is a reserve officer capable of doing what we might be asking out here, or would it be a more trained officer? Say, Neil.
Well, Neil's kind of a special
I know,
circumstance
we
because
think so too.
I trust. I've been doing this for 26 years, and I trust Neil more than many people I've had working for me full time over the years.
But
So
would say just any other reserve type officer.
that's yes and no. They have to get to a certain level. They'd have to get to Neil's level, and that does take a long time. So for the most part, reserve officers have to ride with another officer. We've had some other solo reserve officers that have got that responsibility and lost that responsibility, and it's
The main thing I think that most people would want to see is if we started paying the money for, that we want to see somebody driving by, each day, that would be a concern, I think. Anybody else? Gustavo, you have anything?
No, let's see. Do we have more slides here, Chief?
no, that's it.
That's it? Okay.
The options.
I tell you what,
And if anybody has any questions, send me an email or.
okay.
So
Anything from the floor back there? Any questions? It's a regular session, so we can do that, but, okay, not seeing any, not hearing any. Anybody else? Going around, anything else you want to pass on to?
No, then if that was something you guys decided, one of the good things of two cities working together, we can work together on grants and stuff like that. Most of the grants these days are matching funds, but if you're just starting this off, like the USDA has matching grant monies for police cars and equipment and that kind of thing. There's a bunch of different stuff. And once you decide what you're gonna do, there's COPS grants to go after. And I know at one point in time, the school district was talking about putting some funds towards the city in a sharing process for maybe one officer that did part-time work for the city of Lowell and part-time.
That's an onerous grant, boy. I got about 3/4 of the way through that.
This would not happen quickly, because for us, we'd have to take it to the voters and present it to them, and get a majority vote from the elected. We would not be making a decision on our own, because they would be sharing the wealth. So it's not like we're going to call you tomorrow and say, oh, by the way, we
Yeah.
need somebody here the day after tomorrow.
I figured the soonest would be 18 months, 2
That's
years,
probably getting close.
that something like that would happen.
I appreciate it.
Is that if you have other questions, come pick my brain anytime you want, give me a call, email.
We can shoot them back to Mr. Carlo, and he can take them to you.
And how long have you been with Hooker?
I've been with Oak Ridge. I've been chief since 2015. That's when I was appointed. I was before that a little bit. A year and a half before that. I think.
And then you said you came from Washington.
Yeah, I came from Washington. I worked at Long Beach, Washington City, Long Beach, Washington before I came here.
So what's your take on the latest theft, brazenness of folks here?
Over the years, we've got softer and softer on crime as a society.
No matter what. Well, bad example, bad question for.
Yeah, but I mean, my theory is too, I look at it a little differently, is for any city our size, code enforcement and police go together, whether you have officers that do that, or you have a specific code enforcement person that works with the law enforcement. But it's kind of, cleaning up the broken windows, dirty yards, junked cars,
Livability.
generally making the livability of your city better. It's kind of a team effort, where we work, Public Works, Police Department, City Hall, we're working on problem solving stuff all the time.
Do you see a specific benefit? To me, I almost see a link between the communities of Lowell and Oak Ridge in terms of probably some ties in the criminal activity. And I think there's probably a geographical area that probably fits inside the sweet spot of policing, to where, if you're too small, you're over policing that. And is too big, you're under policing it, but there's like a sweet spot. I kind of feel like there's a relationship there between the two communities that exists. They can't be denied. I think there's, ties in the criminal community that makes it so having police officers that really are observant, or police departments that serve in their both communities might benefit both communities.
Yeah, for instance, we have nexus crimes that happen more so Dexter probably than your city, but, and then also in Crescent Lake Junction, Gilcrest, Crescent, it's just Highway 58 corridor. People are, there's criminals that travel the Highway 58
How
corridor.
far you can get in one night.
Yeah. Or crimes of opportunity because, you drive by that car that you think the door's open, nobody's around or whatnot. The FBI kind of has a 1,000 people to one officer on duty at a time type of thing, which Oregon is, I believe we're dead last for mental law enforcement in the nation per capita. So we're 50 out of 50, least amount of law enforcement Oregon is. So there's that. Kind of a generalized number the FBI says is you have one officer per 1,000 people on at a time. Almost none of the agencies here have that resource. It's just Oregon's priority.
You're kind of speaking to the mutual support with Lane County. If we had an officer here, expect Lane County to kind of tap it from time to time to go to Dexter or Fall Creek or whatever.
That happens. I mean, like up in our neck of the woods, we help OSD, OSD helps us. We help the
Right.
Forest Service help. In fact, that's how we got a Forest Service contract. Forest Service said, you guys help us a lot. Here's some money. We don't expect it to go the other way. Just
Yeah, I just didn't see the Lane County listed on here. When we read that.
And I think that's a lot of the questions that I've got from not per se Lowell citizens, but I've had some Fall Creek people think that they're going to get law enforcement services if Lowell decides to do something. And my answer is that's fine and good if you did a law enforcement district and it was bigger than this city of Lowell. But I mean, there is times in Oak Ridge where we have an imaginary line that, or not imaginary, that's our city limits. And if the call's over there, that belongs to the county. And if it's over here, it belongs to us because I have council and taxpayers to answer to just like you all do as well. So it's
That pretty much answers that.
we
Anything
help
else?
we help each other, but we all have our own responsibilities too.
Right, yeah, I understand the oil. We have individual support. Yeah. Thank you, Chief.
Yeah, it said doors open, emails open, phones open. So,
Get more questions? We'll follow up through the.
you guys.
I think we can have Kurt Wilson next. Yeah, we want to drop the lights down a little bit more or to see him or.
You had to tune in, you had to.
Evening, everyone.
Evening.
Are you ready for me to share screen and give a presentation?
Yeah, let's make it larger if we can.
He's going to take over the screen. We're ready, Kurt. You should be able to get it.
All righty. So I will. Are you seeing a floor plan on the screen?
Yes.
Okay. So just a quick update to where we're at in the process. And so probably not surprised by what you're seeing on the screen. Floor plan of the library improvements. Just a refresh of the city spaces, city hall spaces will be in this corner. We'll occupy the office in the corner will be Jeremy's office for the city admin, and then open up this other room that's to the south of it for the workroom, and city clerk will sit in this area, and a reception counter off the lobby. We are modifying the existing restrooms to make them accessible through an effort of subtraction. As you're aware, door is getting moved over for some accessibility reasons outside. It works better to move that door and provide a little bit of a bigger opening. And then one thing that has changed in the storage room, we are locating the IT rack in this corner. And Jeremy and I have been working with a consultant from LCOG to help with some of the IT planning and have a good solution to kind of the overall communication infrastructure as it's happening in the space. And then the library side is over here. And this is a more technical drawing with some dimensions and a few notes here. It hasn't really changed too much. Staff office, the service desk, some counters. What you're seeing here is the casework that will be incorporated into the base bit of construction. What you're not seeing on this drawing is furniture or anything like that. So just a quick overview on the floor plan. Any questions about that before I move on? All right, so this is just a quick summary of our project budget. Our revenue sources that are comprising our budget are listed on the screen. The total revenue allocated to the project is $515,000. I'll let you take a look at that. I won't read through all of them, but this is something that you've seen before, and I'm assuming you're all aware of that. And then I will just scroll down the page. This portion here is how we're allocating the project budget to the cost, the cost that we'll need to predict for to execute a project. And again, we're showing how the budget gets allocated, and what you're looking at on this column on the right is the allocations for the various categories of activity. We had I'll just walk through this very quickly. Pre-construction investigation, we had an asbestos survey done. It was turned out one of those double negatives. It was good. It was negative, so that's positive. I guess that's not double positive, but there was no asbestos, so that was good to see. We'll probably have a little bit of construction testing that we'll need to pay for outside of the construction contract itself. And then permits and systems development charges really were permits, so kind of a tough number to get your hand around, but this is a pretty good ballpark number. And then 17,500, 2,500, a little bit of legal review by the city attorney and some of the contracts that are being done. Design team fees and expenses of 62,000 is the allocation here. The next item down, equipment, communication, and furniture, is really the biggest pot of money that is really not otherwise allocated. And this is where, in some ways, it serves a little bit. Well, I won't say a contingency, but we're trying to get as much out of it as possible. Servers, some of the equipment that the contractor isn't going to be purchasing that will go into the building, some of the communication equipment, security cameras, and things like that that monies would be used for. Part of the conversation that Jeremy I had with the IT manager for LCOG was related to grants and opportunities and how they can help secure additional funding for some security and communication specific expenses. Cameras are an example, some of the motion sensors and things like that that get added as part of a move-in operation. And then good rule of thumb is to allocate 5% of the construction budget and a construction contingency budget that the owner controls. So this is intended to cover, this is for change orders. This is for the things that are going to come up in construction that aren't in the documents, may not have been able to see or predict. We don't know what's behind those walls. exactly. We know some of them, that there's going to be surprises and we need to be able to respond. So 5% is a pretty good working number. You always want it to be higher, but when you have a budget, you're trying to get it pulled out as much as you can and do as much as you can with it. So what that leaves is a construction budget of 385,000. So what we're trying to do is get a number that we can bid and sign a construction contract for that's under our construction budget. And that's really the goal at this point. We're trying to do as much as we can with available budget, and we really want to be in a position to sign a contract with a contractor as we go out to bid. So unless there's any questions about the budget and the allocation, I'm going to move on to the quick overview of the construction cost estimate. Okay, so what you're seeing here is something you've seen variations of before. So this is a cost estimate summary as of today. It aligns with what you saw in the drawing, and it's got the organization of the construction, the CSI format that is used in construction for organizing information of in the divisions that you see there, which we went over in previous presentations. How we've been organizing the information. What this is showing is the allocation of each of these costs between the improvements for City Hall and the improvements for the common areas in the library. And those in some cases are percentage allocations. So for instance, modifications to the mechanical system really are system wide. So we're allocating that 24%, which is what City Hall spaces of the building, 76% for everything else. In other cases, for instance, walls or doors, it's the actual quantity of improvements in that space. So it's not literally proportionate, and you'll see that at the bottom here. But I'm just going to scroll through here. The right column is just and again, this is our base bid scope of work estimate. And there's a lot of detail. I don't know that there's anything of particular significance in any of these things. I'll talk about these a little bit more in a couple of pages here. But as we go down, where we're at here is the numbers that you're seeing here above the construction subtotal would be the equivalent of the numbers that a subcontractor and suppliers provide to a general contractor. And they're working out to an allocation of City Hall and the library of 80-20 is how these numbers actually work out at the subtotal amount. And then I've only applied the contractor's markup on the total because those are a percentage basis. The general contractor's contribution, and then a factor for estimating and for market volatility, and that gets us to a number that's right under our construction budget of 385. So we're 381 here under that 385. You can see 28,000 of that is, the numbers above this line reflect our best understanding of the market now. And anytime you're getting any published data or any data about costs, it's really kind of old anyway. And we're just in a very volatile time. And I think everybody understands inflation is affecting a lot of things. Volatility is affecting a lot of things. So the cost estimate includes an understanding that we still aren't done. We're not, these documents aren't 100% complete. So there's some assumptions that are being made, and that's essentially the estimating contingency. And then market volatility is market volatility. So that's what those are for. So we are right at our base bid based on this estimate, which, is it tells us go forward. There's not a lot of margin here in this project. It's not a big, it's not a, it's a modest budget. It's a very challenging moment to be in construction and getting bids. Everybody's so busy, and I think everybody understands kind of those challenges. But that's where we are right now in terms of what the estimate tells us. And then the next 2 pages, and by the way, Jeremy received this information right around the time that the board meeting started, and this will be made available after the meeting. So this is the same information of the base bid total in those same categories. We're not seeing the city hall and the library allocation, but we are seeing some of the things that we've identified as potential alternates. And some of these things we still want to track as something as a biddable alternate, something we can get a separate price from the contractor. But given our cost estimate is right at for our base bid is right at our budget, I don't recommend incorporating any of these things into the base bid. If we want to move forward with any of these items, we should bid them as alternates. So just went through, those are increasing the amount of tile in the restroom. The base bid has just repairing tile that's getting damaged from demo or moving toilet fixtures and putting it back. When you're when you're patching tile, it'll always look like a patch. You just can't blend in. You'll never find new tile that looks like old tile. And you'll see the prices as we go down there where they're applicable. An alternate to re-roof the building. This is something that, given its value of the alternate, given where we are with the construction budget, base bid estimate, I would suggest we just not pursue the roofing right now. We can always deal with that. It really can be a separate, it doesn't need to get folded into this project. We don't necessarily need to go to a general contractor for just a re-roof job. We can have a work with a roofer and save the markup from a general contractor. Library casework is the stacks within the space itself are being tracked as furniture as a separate item. And we'll look at that. We're going to talk about that a little bit more. And we got some numbers for that. But if you recall, I mentioned that you see that there was some casework around the perimeter on both the north and the south side. That will be very similar to the stacks. It's along the perimeter. It's kind of embedded in the wall. I believe it makes more sense to include that in the base bid. The upgrades to the HVAC system, which is really just putting a number to replacing the units that are there. And then the last one is a cost for a fire alarm. And we'll talk about that one a little bit further down. So I'll highlight the alternates as we see their values in these columns and just talk about what's applicable in the base bid. So mention the roofing. We've got some skylights that we got in the budget, the solar tube skylights that will basically be a roof penetration. So in the base bid, there's a little bit of work to repair the roof. But other than that, re-roofing is a standalone item. Mention the tile. We'll be doing a little bit of tile work, and this is a cost to do more tile work. And then the casework, which is listed in Division 12. What's in the base bid is for the library, or for this number includes all the counters that are in to the City Hall reception area, some more counters in the City Hall work area, the bathroom counters, the service desk counter in the library, and then the cabinets along the wall. And that's the $21,000. And then there's another allocation in the mid-20s for building out of wood from a cabinet shop, bidding this as from a cabinet shop, the stacks that are in the library itself. And I'll show you another drawing of that. And we'll talk more about some of the different options, but that's a number. That 22,000 is the number for the bookshelves, for new bookshelves to outfit the room based on some preliminary cost information that we have. That's not in the base bid. And I want to make sure that we understand, we highlight that. And then under the HVAC, this is the number of replacement units. We have two. One's pretty close to its useful life. The other one's a few years behind that. They can be replaced now, they can be replaced later, and that's kind of the number to replace them both. And then the next page, the fire alarm's coming in. It's not, they're not too expensive. Fire alarm in a commercial building includes smoke detectors and heat detectors, and both two types of alarms, a sound and audible alarm, not unlike a smoke detector at home, and an audible or a visual alarm, a strobe. Both of those alarms need to meet the ADA requirements for sound and noise alarms. And in particular, the strobe, the flashing strobes in a building have to be synced and installed in a way that they are coordinated, so they're not strobing or they're not flashing at different intervals. And that, because if they do, that can cause an epileptic reaction in some people. So a lot of times can't we just put a smoke detector in the building like you have at home? I think you're seeing one right above me. Actually, no, not in a commercial building without meeting the accessibility requirements. So it's a little bit of a unfortunate circumstance in the code. So arguably, you really can't put in just a regular smoke detector, although I think there is one on the other side behind the mayor on the wall, if I recall. So this is a system that would have a full code compliant heat detector, smoke detector, strobes, audible alarms, and a connection that could be monitored by an outside company. So if nobody's there, there's an outside company, Sonatrol type of company, knows about it. They call the fire department and say there's fire, and they call Jeremy and say there's a fire. So that's what this is covering. It's really a pretty good value in my mind, but certainly can bid it as an alternate. And then the numbers down at the bottom. So we got a lot of alternates. We just aren't going to be able to swing them all. But I think we pursue a few of them, get some numbers, the ones that we think are worth doing. I would suggest the tile, the library casework, and the fire alarm. I don't think we need to do the HVAC upgrade. And I don't think we need to do the roofing. And I think those can be dealt with in different ways later. So that's generally the direction that I would recommend that we go in. And then we're getting close to wrapping up here, and we're looking at the third week of February, getting everything out for bid. So, and this is the general direction that we're going. And I just want to give you an update on that. I guess I'll entertain any questions, comments you have.
Anybody? Do you have anything? I just appreciate the information coming back to us. And glad to see it's moving along.
Great, thank you. I'll go through I'm going to do talk a little bit, just a few more minutes. If I got a little more time, 5 minutes on the agenda, if that works. I'll keep going, talk about kind of how we're looking at the stacks, the shelves itself. So
Right.
I'm gonna, if you recall in this drawing, you're seeing cabinets along the wall, and those numbers are heights of those units in inches. So 30 inches below the windows, 84 adjacent to the windows. These should have been 36 or 30. They're 30. This says 36, but assume they're 30. But so we have cabinetry along both of the walls. We have a service desk. We have a counter here for computer stations, et cetera. So that's what's in that base bid number. If I go back here, we have more of those units. They're 3 feet long, and they are in the middle of the room. They're 66 inches high, 5 feet 6. There's 3 rows of them. There's 7 across, 7 in length, 2 across. That's a main collections area. And then 42-inch high units over here forming kids area. And so that is what we don't have in the base bid right now. And the way that we're approaching this is we're looking at 3 options, and Tim had suggested a fourth option, and I don't want to lose sight of that when we met last time, which was these are things that could be built by volunteers, and I'll show you how we're thinking that through. So the idea here is we've based our available, all of the sizes that you've just seen are based on available products that can be purchased. So a good source is SD for library furniture. You can see some examples where they've got some nice book, a lot of shelves with some nice ends. Looks like a library, looks like stacks. You see more of those down here. They have a line of products. You can see they're 3 feet long. They're made of a metal, just a very simple system that with some center post and shelves snap into place, and they can be single-sided as you're seeing here, or they can be double-sided. There's accessories and things like that. So these are a product that I would expect that the library staff would probably like something like this because they're really flexible. Not only do they have great adjustability and some accessories, they also have places for labels and other things like that. So it's a really nice flexible system. They also have components like caps and end caps so that they look nice and clean. And so I wouldn't rule out buying these. They're an option. We haven't gotten good prices from the manufacturer yet, so I don't have a good number on that, but I wouldn't rule out the idea of purchasing these for those systems that we're looking at. You can see they have more accessories, and a lot of this is coming obviously from a product brochure. Here you can see an example of a solid top on top of these, so it looks like casework, but it's actually this system. You can see here there's a variety of sizes. There's single-sided, double-sided. It's really a pretty slick system that they have here. So we want to be able to base the sizes that are in the drawings based on this product that's flexible and available, can be purchased. But we may not be able to, we may not be able to afford that. And so we can still build elements like this out of wood. So we can basically, if we look at this and just, this could be a wood standard, a base, a top, and then just regular adjustable shelves on the side. Same dimensions, 3 feet long, 12 inches deep, or it could be a box that's 24 inches deep with a standard down the center. So that's something that we're looking at. We'll bid in our alternates all of these stacks as casework that can be made by a local company, or they can be made by volunteers because it's really just a shop-made product, or they can be made by a unique opportunity that we have in Oregon, which is Oregon Prison Industries. Oregon Corrections Enterprises, excuse me. It's an arm of the Oregon Department of Corrections, and they, as a vocational program to reduce recidivism rates in our prisons, our state prisons, they have a work program, and one of the things that they do, and they do this through Oregon Corrections Enterprises, they make a variety of different products: furniture, metalwork, bedding, lawn and garden furniture. Basically anything that can get made in a shop or with a CNC machine, they make someplace. And they are a preferred, Jeremy, correct me if the terminology, they're basically a preferred vendor for public agencies in Oregon. So you can go procure items from them directly without bidding. So we could take the drawings to them for the furniture. In fact, for all the casework, but I would suggest for this, we focus on the stacks for this, and get a price from them. And if we're comfortable with that price, move forward with it. So the way that I would handle this is the same set of drawings that our local fabric cabinet shops can do their bids from. Those same drawings, Oregon Corrections Enterprise can give us a price as well. Maybe not in the exact same time frame, but they can give us a price, and we can get a sense of what we where those prices work out, and if what's the better value for the city. Also recognizing the recidivist, the broader goals of the program are something to consider as well. They have a specific line of furniture, and these are some. This is some screenshots off their website, and it's really quite remarkable what they make. And how they do it. I had the good fortune of being the architect for renovations for the office, the Oregon State Capitol office wings about a decade ago. All 90 offices for the Senate and House members, and that the office wings, and all of the furniture throughout those 2 5-story buildings were built by Oregon Corrections Enterprises. It was quite a remarkable effort. It was beautiful workmanship. I was really quite impressed. Also have been involved in a fire station on the coast that they built a casework for. This is some examples of information that they sent us. Just to show some of the diversity. This is a cabinet or like a counter. So this would be equivalent to casework. They made these tables. This happens to be a product very similar to what we're looking at in this photo. What they made were these tables and the chairs. They made these 2 photos at the bottom. They made the upholstered seating. So they can do anything. Literally, they can make anything. And but I think that would be a direction. So between the module of the stacks from a product, we can also have a cost for a cabinet shop locally to make it, Oregon Corrections to make it, and if there's some opportunities for community members to get involved in that, that would be an option as well. So I just wanted where we're at with the library design components, and just trying to find ways to get the library as outfitted as possible at the time construction is completed. So that's my presentation. I'll open up to any questions you might have.
You anything? Yeah. I have one question. Whenever I look at your black and white drawing of the floor plan, and I look at your yellow and green one, is the conference room the same size in both of them?
Yes, it is.
Okay, I just I just wasn't sure. That it looked like in the black and white it looked larger for some reason.
It's furniture. I mean, I think the dimension strings probably are contributing to that as well. But yeah, these drawings were printed both today off the same base information.
Do we have a count on linear footage of shelving needed for our collection at this time?
Yeah.
Those drawings that we had on there.
Did you hear the question, Kurt?
Well, I think the way that Penny and I have, and Jeremy and I have discussed that, there is a general quantity of existing books that have been identified, and it's in a program. I think the question is that the more difficult question is going to be, and this may be happening with some of the work that Penny is directly involved with now, is the review of the information and just how much of the collections are going to be moved. And so at last I had heard that was somewhat of a hard to pin down number.
I guess the ultimate goal of my question is to find out, are we going to overshelf ourselves? Like I think in terms of fiscal constraint on these purchases for the shelving, we need to have a pretty good idea of how many linear footage of shelving we need at this time. Obviously, we want some room to grow, but I think what we don't want to do is have 10 empty bookshelves sitting in our library that we just spent $5,000 on.
But if all the books were moved, there wouldn't be enough room in this layout.
What books you really want to, because there's
Yeah,
some.
yeah.
ancient-
Some that aren't as good a shape or appropriate.
People use this place as a dump because you can't get rid of books without paying for it. We took a lot of them
Okay.
for donations.
Okay.
Anything else, anybody? Ms. Colley, you have anything more?
Kurt, could you give a brief update on the project schedule?
Yeah, we are pushing to get out for bid the third week of February. I think the date is February 23rd. And we'll get bidding right away and get permit process going right away. And, bidding takes, I like to allocate 3 weeks for bidding and another week for reviewing contracts. So depending on the amount of interest we get early in the bid period, we might push that out for another week. We want to make sure that we give, I look at bidding period as a marketing effort for the project. So we want to make sure we give enough time for bidders to look at it and make sure we get some interest. And then, we'll see where we are with permit and when the bids come in and get construction going as quickly as possible.
Anybody?
Yeah.
You got one question over here, Kurt?
If you're going out for bids in February, do we have the money ready to go with this at that point? Where is the funding available, ready to go to pay these people? Where are we with the money?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Ms.
By
Colley,
by
answer
the by
that.
the end of the month, we should have everything close to or finalized with our Business Oregon loan. And certainly by the end of the February, we will have an answer on the Ford Family Foundation grant.
Anything else for Kurt? If not, thank you, Kurt. Looks
All
good.
right. Thank you very much. Have a great rest of your meeting. Bye-bye.
Here.
One more question here, I think.
Afterward, what is the total on the grant money from the Ford?
Ford Foundation?
Ford Foundation?
We don't, I think Kurt could go if he has, I think he left,
Yeah, he left.
but you can answer that.
We adjusted it a little bit. I had a call on Friday with our grant manager, but I believe it's about 170,000 is what we're going to be requesting for grant funding.
And we have to match it for the, I'm sorry, we have to have the balance set, right?
Come up with the difference.
Come up with the balance.
Yes, we also have 50,000 from Lane County that's pledged. We have 20 something in donations from the citizens. And then we have the financing through Business Oregon. That's a 20 to 30 year low interest loan.
I thought I saw 190 on your Ford Foundation.
And that's actually changed based on my call that I had.
Okay,
Last
so it's back
week.
down to 170.
Yeah.
Okay. I do have some more questions for you. So the air conditioning, wasn't there some ARPA number money for air conditioning? Are we going to be doing that outside of the contract?
I'm going to talk to Kurt about that. We have some ARPA money we need to spend.
Yeah.
And the general fund is free money.
Uh-huh.
And I believe we can do everything we need to do to the HVAC system with that free ARPA money.
Yeah, okay, good. That way we can have the UAC system and have it paid for and everything, the
Yeah.
ducting and everything like that, so take a few dollars out. As far as the security system and fire system and everything, is that gonna comply with what CIS needs for from the insurance company? Are we up to them or are they wanting more?
But it should comply. It's the basic system, video,
Okay.
video storage, intrusion detection and fire detection. That's the basic commercial security that you have in place. So
And one thing I
I
saw,
don't think they could bid anything that won't meet specs. I
I'm
mean,
sorry,
I wouldn't think that he bid anything that wouldn't meet specs. If he did, that's.
oh, no, I didn't think so.
news of the guy.
we also have our LCOG IT consultants. They're going to be looking. They have some solutions for security that want to be
Okay,
helping us
we
with.
like, yeah, we want that. And the Oh, the metal casement that he had there, I gotta figure that that's cheaper than wooden ones. I think that whenever we look at that, we need to make sure the city hall and the library matches to some degree. That way, it has a nice, even flow. If we go with metal over here, we should go with metal over there, same, or I don't know, we should go for metal over there no matter what. If we go for wood over here, that's fine, but so much of what in offices doesn't have to be paneled wood and things like that. So, but I would at least look at City Hall for the metal casement, and I'm sure they have online or catalogs or whatever that you can look at to see how that would work out. I've got to think that they're cheaper, but I don't know. But, I don't know how what the charge of prison labor is, so.
Not cheap.
No, nothing's cheap anymore. No, I agree with you there. Yeah, any other comments about his presentation? Anything else that we want to address to Mr. Cottle about?
So you're gonna wing us the presentation that he provided? to us?
Absolutely.
I guess, like some of the questions that came out, I think right now we need to keep kind of an update on funding methods, sources to the council so that we can feel comfortable about where it's coming from and what we're doing, things like that, and what our options are. So this, we're too far down this road to turn around and go back, we can't unfix the library roof and things like that over there, so. Okay. Anything else? Then we'll get back on schedule. Next up is the consent agenda. What we have there is a check register for December 2021, final financial statement for November 2021, approval of the minutes for December 7th, 2021 regular meeting, approval of the minutes for the January 4th, 2022 work session, executive session. Does anybody want to take anything out for consideration as new business, or do we have a motion to accept?
Move approval.
Second.
Okay. Maureen made the motion and Tim seconded that we approve the consent agenda as written. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Gotcha. Thank you. Go over my next page. So next we have room for public comments. Any public comment? Not seeing any, not hearing any. Council comments. Not seeing any, not hearing any. Okay, next up is a staff report. That's on page 73 of your first up is Mr. Cottle.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, City Council, members of the public. This administrator's report covers activities since the December 7th meeting. On the library renovation project, I've had weekly meetings with Wilson Architecture to finalize the construction documents. On January the 10th, the city's IT consultants with LCOG met with staff and I at the current campus. They're going to be helping us out with the IT and telephone aspects of the project. They also said there may be some grant opportunities to help pay for some of this work, and their grant writers are looking into this for us. So I'll let you know what they find out. I've had multiple phone calls with Business Oregon on our loan application. They said the application looks great from a loan underwriting standpoint. They moved it along in their approval process, and I should hear by the end of the month on that. I've had multiple phone calls with the Ford Family Foundation on our grant application. We are on track for their board to have a decision for us in February. We also held a fundraiser for the end of the year. We set a goal of $3,000. We raised $7,970 from 68 different donors. We're grateful for the support that the citizens have shown for this project, and I believe that will reflect very well on our Ford Family Foundation application to show that the community still supports this project. Earlier this month, the Lane County Board of Commissioners approved the right-of-way relinquishment for the right-of-way that's bordering this current property, and I'm working with the Public Works Department to transfer title to us. On the parks renovation, I spoke with our grant coordinator for our current land and water conservation grant, discussed with them the feedback I received at the work session earlier this month, and I'll talk about that later on in the meeting. On the East Main Street property, also earlier this month, the Board of Commissioners approved the option agreement for us to acquire the right-of-way bordering the northern portion of that property. I'm going to hold off on exercising that option until we have a fuller picture of the environmental remediation that we'll have to do on the property. And I'll keep the city council apprised of that, and I'll come to you before I make any decisions on that. I'm also soliciting quotes from environmental consultants to do a phase 2 environmental assessment on that property. Based on the phase 1 assessment, it's possible that underground gasoline storage tanks are on that property from when it was a general store. The phase 2 will determine where the tanks are located. They'll do some soil and groundwater testing, and then they'll decide on what steps that we need to take to prepare this for sale. And again, I'll keep you updated and bring everything to you that needs approval. On some other items, the Oregon Department of Forestry has submitted a grant on the city's behalf to do extra work on the Sunridge subdivision property. So currently ODF has done fire mitigation, and they're not done, by the way. They're going to come back once it's not as muddy. They've done work from the rail bed up to the hill. And then they're going to do work, if we get the grant, from the road up to the rail bed. So if that's approved, we'll have another agreement we have to sign, and I'll bring that to you for approval. Last week, I participated in a call with the Rain Organization, as well as organizers of a Pac-12 rowing competition that's going to take place on Dexter Lake in May. They estimate that it could bring up to 1,800 people into the community. One of our biggest roles as a city is going to be communicating that to the public so that folks aren't caught unawares about all the people that are going to be in town. I've also reached out to the Economic Development Committee to see if there's any interest in generating ideas on how businesses in the city can capitalize on this. So if anybody has any ideas on that or wants to be a part of it, let me know. I've also spent a lot of time completing the paperwork for SB 866. We'll talk about that later on. Lastly, the Blackberry Jam Committee is meeting on the 24th. That's on Monday next week, to see what, if anything, we're going to do for this summer. I don't believe at this stage in the game that we're going to do a big Blackberry Jam Festival, but there may be some interest in holding some smaller events throughout the summer. That's dependent upon volunteers stepping up and taking leadership over that. So I'll keep you updated on that as well. That concludes my report. What questions do you have for me?
Have you spoke with the city attorney about any paths forward about options for us to mitigate some of the cost to us for environmental remediation on the Main Street property?
I have, and the advice that I received was to complete the phase 2 assessment so that we have an actual picture of what's actually wrong with the property. Best case scenario is there's nothing wrong with it. They don't find any tanks, and we don't have to take any further action on that. But until we actually know what's there and what it's going to cost, we don't have a full picture of that. But I'll keep you updated, and I'll continue having those conversations with our legal counsel.
That could be a above ground gas tank I'm ever seeing in early fifties or whatever, they'd have them up there, and you'd stand there and you'd pump and stuff like that. That looks like a possibility. of what
Aren't
they
we
could
aware,
have.
aren't we aware of documents though that one
I
of the
don't think
former
so.
previous landowners?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't-
yeah, yeah, we are, and we also have resident
Yeah.
testimony that they used to go.
So-
I guess, wasn't a quick look there.
Okay. Are you aware of those documents she's speaking of?
Yes, that was in the phase one report.
And that railroad bed, opening that towards the lakeside, that was in the master plan for that, to open it up and make it more, so you can actually see the lake from the plan there. So that's a continuation of what we're already doing. Okay,
To do what?
anything else for Mr. Cottle?
Sorry, Don, to make what viewable?
More viewable, that you're able to see the lake easier from the railroad bed trail. They've got to clear some of those trees
The
out.
fire mitigation they're doing.
It
has a
it
side
wasn't for
bit.
fire, it was just to make it, to put benches along there so people could sit and look at the
Walk
cars
across the
driving
road.
by and the lake, you know?
But I'd like to continue, we've dealt with that portion of it, and I've mentioned in the past that that's not the only section of our community that needs fire mitigation, and I'd like to think that we will progress around the rest of our community and address other citizen concerns in their area, because we are kind of surrounded, except on the south side by, fire hazard areas.
I'd almost suggest you do what they did up there. They started their own Firewise group, working with the ODF and working with Lon over there and putting it together and working from there. That's probably about the easiest way.
She's gonna do an article for the newsletter. I got in touch with her some different way, and yeah, that option's gonna be open for different places, and ODF's willing to do it, and so if anybody wants to, yeah, that'd be good.
I thought it was just gonna be a piece of paper program, but actually they're supporting it, the ODF is supporting it with manpower and dollars. So it's great. I think it's a wonderful thing. But like I say, we get with the Sun Ridge group up there, Carrie is the main one, and some of the others, and see what they did, how they started it and everything, and or else just talk to Lon. That's the easiest way, is talk to Lon and see what needs to be done and what they did up there, and he can probably lead you through the process. So, but no, I agree, we have trees all the way around us, but those were on city property, which made it easier to, I think, include in actual work. So. Anything else? Public Works, Mr. Baker?
Got a map for you guys this time. Good evening, everyone, council, and the public. Staff report, same thing. It's since the last meeting we had in December. Just go through this real quick because we'll get to the end. We got a little bit talking. So streets and parks, as you guys are all aware, the holiday decoration has been taken down at Cover Bridge. Mostly everything out of Walmart Park. Finish up on the caboose. There's a few things added to this that since I turned in my staff report. So the restaurants have been closed at Walmart Park. The plumbing was vandalized, leaving the restroom inoperable. Staff is waiting for repair parts to fix it and to have a plumber come out and look at it. So they are locked and closed to the public temporarily. Water treatment plant. Staff replaced 60.
Did it happen at night or during the day?
Uh,
Were they open at night or were they just open in the day?
they're open all the time right now. Yeah.
I thought we used to close them in the winter.
Yeah, we used to, but there's no mechanism to close them right now.
Okay.
They destroyed the doors completely.
Okay.
We're looking into some options
Okay.
there. Yeah, and I talked with city manager a few times about, we also used to bring the outhouse, remember, years past. We always close the bathroom, chain the outhouse to the pole, and I don't want to do that because it looks horrible, but that might be an option we have to do if we purchased 3 toilets in the last 2 years and they're not cheap. So. Okay, water plant, staff replaced 60 meters, bringing the total to in the ground installed 200. The new cam strap. This does not count, new meters like the new subdivision. This is just the capital improvement project. I am working on generating a report. I'll do my interview report for you guys. I'll probably bring it to council at the work session in February. Well, it's not too big to start annual maintenance and kind of where we're at with the plants and everything. And I'll include some numbers. I know everybody likes to see the gallons, different numbers, and, put a dollar amount to it. I think we're all gonna be shocked at the numbers. As everyone knows, we had a power outage last week, just a temporary one, unexpected. This is the second we've had in the last 2 months. The first one was just a flicker, but it also did the same. The power outage we had last week took out the operating system for the water treatment plant. This is the brains of the plant, so it's the way we tell the plant what to do, when to do it, how to do it. We did get it reestablished after a certain amount of time, but we don't know what caused it. We do know the system's old. I've brought many quotes over the years, and it is something we're including in the current water master plan. It just might be something we have to deal with a little sooner. So TAG will be on site Thursday. They're going to look at the system, recommend some upgrades, and then troubleshoot the cause of the initial failure. Everything worked fine. The generator kicked on like it's supposed to. Everything without a hiccup. The only difference is the computer program inside the water plant just stopped. So when it stopped, the water plant stopped. Normally when we have an
It was
outage,
protected by the generator?
yeah, everything 100% backup. Yep. So that, and I'm thinking it's an issue somewhere in there. They're going to come out and look at it. But usually when we have a power outage, if the plant's on, the battery supply works everything, and then we only got a 15-second delay and no hiccups, just like the snowstorm. We made water and sewer the entire 18 days we were out of power. So it was a little bit of shock. Like I said, we got it both 12 times. We just don't want to get in a situation where we don't get to come back. So we always keep plenty of water in the reservoirs, but you just never know circumstances. So yeah, they'll be out Thursday. They'll make some recommendations. That'll also turn into the engineer, and then I'm sure there'll be a quote for whatever we need to do in the short term to keep it moving forward. I did put in here, it also includes the FEMA and the EPA requirements for safety and security. It's a huge thing with water and sewer plants these days, especially since 9/11. We have a written plan that we've had since 2012 that was accepted by the state. But one of those is the steps to identify what you're going to do and then timeline of when you're going to do it. This will be integrated into our water master plan that Civil West is currently working on. But CAG is also going to help us with the plan. They've helped Oak Ridge, they've helped Westford, Crestwell, they've helped all the surrounding communities with their plans. Even if we don't spend the capital right now, we at least know what we need to do to get to that point. So we've done a lot of the things, we do have cameras, we have the security lighting now. We put a VPN early last year. So we've done a lot of the steps to protect the water plant. CIS come out and did a security audit of all city properties, which included the water plant. They made some recommendations that we have already made. So this is just another avenue looking at more of the IT side of things. So I'll bring that back to you guys at the next meeting. On the power outage, staff is working with J&K to get a portable generator set up for the water treatment plants. This will prevent the need for costly rental during outages. We already spent the money after the last snowstorm putting the pigtail in. I gave them our utility bill last month that we had for the generator or for the towers. So they scoped out what size generator we need. And we are going to be able to get away with a portable one. We don't need to spend the 20,000 to 50,000, to get a standalone fix-in unit. We have a dual fuel scope one that we're just waiting to pull a trigger on. They're about $1,500, and it's more than big enough to run the 3 booster pumps and all the telemetry system. So I'll bring that back to you guys. Okay, on to the big one, wastewater treatment plant. And I'm just going to read this. So questions at the end. As council is aware, city did not meet the BOD limits of the MPDS permit in May, June, and part of July last year. These violations were caused by failure of the RAS pump, which has since been replaced. We have remained in compliance with BOD limits of the MPDS since the end of July 2021. On July 21, 2021, DEQ mailed a warning letter with opportunity to correct. This was a follow-up from their site visit. They come on site usually every 3 to 4 years. So included in this letter were violations from 2008 to 2021 and a requested, excuse me, and a requested corrective action. All requested corrective actions have been completed and submitted to DEQ. The letter also states that it is a warning letter and DEQ does not intend to take any formal action unless the city fails to submit the requested plans or repeat any effluent violation. The warning letter only covered BOD violations up to the end of June. He was on site in May. We continue to have BOD violations until the end of July caused by the RAS pump failure. Fast forward a couple months, on November 11th, 2021, the city of Lowell had a lift station overflow of approximately 900 gallons. This was caused by the heavy rain of 2.2 inches in 6 hours. Of course, it was reported to the state, and called the ORS number. December 14th, 2021, the city receives a pre-enforcement notice from DEQ referencing the BOD violations in July and the lift station overflow in November 2021. So we're still very early on the process. We have talked to the city engineer. We've had several sit down. I have reached out to DEQ to ask them. So a pre-enforcement letter is my direct contact is our regulator. So he's our permit writer. He's the person we call when we have issues, but he is not the person that assesses penalties, violations, orders, or anything on DEQ site. It's a full separate department. So he took the findings, which I've already shared with you guys when we got them back in July. And because we had another triggered violation of BOD at the end of July when we were working on the RAS pumps, it triggered as a repeat. And their process says that because the repeat, it gets forwarded over to PEN, pre-enforcement notification. That was sent over to them January 7th. I doubt we'll hear anything for a couple more weeks. They're extremely shorthanded and overstaffed. But when we do get the letter or we find anything out, we'll bring it to council and we'll discuss it from there. I really don't have any answers to give you guys. I reached out to him and asked what has happened to other municipalities this has happened to. What can we expect? And we didn't really get any answers because he doesn't work for the pre-enforcement side of things. So I know it's kind of a bad spot to leave you guys with questions, but let us be full transparent when we get everything and we'll just have to move forward from there. So before I go to the last, is there any questions on that? I mean, I was pretty open with you guys. We knew we had the violations. They were caused by the failure.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question.
Yes.
Max, for everybody's benefit, could you explain again what the BOD is and what a RAS pump is and how that would affect the BOD?
Okay, so BOD is a bio-oxygen chemical demand. It's a measurement, it's a chemical measurement of the available free oxygen in the wastewater that we discharge to the river. It's important because aquatic life and species of fish use this to breathe underwater. So we have a limit. Everybody in the state has a limit. So we exceeded that because we didn't meet the BOD limit. So BOD is not something you can see in the water. Obviously it's something that's present. The RAS pump failure, what happened was it would not allow the solids to take from the clarifier to put it back into the heart of the plant, which is where everything happens in the plant. So we get all of our removal, keep the bugs happy. So when the RAS pump failed, it didn't fail completely. It was running, let's say it was supposed to be 100, it was only doing 10 gallons. So what happened over time is the solids in the clarifier, they literally died, the bugs died. So they were upset. And when they got upset, they weren't doing their job in the other tank. And our BOD started to creep up. And we knew we had an issue because we reported that we were getting close to our limit to the state. And actually the day that he was on site, May 5th, was the first day of the violation. We were sampling while he was there. He was full aware of it. And the problem is once you get out, it's really difficult to get back in. We were in the summertime, which is the worst time of year to not be in permit. And May is the start of our strict permit. So we have a May to October and then November to the end of May. So our permit limit was cut in more than in half. So yeah, that's what happened. The RAS pump just didn't do what it's supposed to do, made it in the process, and we violated effluent BOD because of it. I will tell you guys, obviously the new RAS pump is installed, works fine. We put internal alarms on it. We put visual alarms on it. We also made changes to our O&M manual and our daily round sheet to reflect that. We do a couple extra steps each day. This has all been reported to the state, obviously, just to ensure that I'm not going to say something like this will never happen again because it is a mechanical piece of equipment and there is failures. Everybody's experienced that. But maybe it wouldn't be something that happens so sudden. Maybe there's an indication, oh, this is a little hot, or we can kind of forecast, see it coming. We did purchase the second one, as you guys all know. When I came to you with the first one, Councilor Stratus made a recommendation just to replace both of them, which was an excellent idea because we're still waiting on parts for the second one. COVID really hampered this. I'm not saying if it wasn't COVID and the shipping delays that we wouldn't have violated. We were going to violate. It might have shortened the amount of time that we violated. But that's, it just is what it is. So. Any other questions on that? No? Okay, let's move forward. This one's going to bring questions, I'm sure. The city administrator and I met virtually with U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to discuss the fish injunction and the changes to Lookout Point and Dexter Dam operations, which may impact the city's water plant operations. One of these items discussed was a deep drawdown of Lookout Point Reservoir. The concern on Army Corps side of things is elevated turbidity in the lake causing operational challenges to the water treatment plant. Although we cannot predict turbidity increase, city staff will be prepared with the plan in such a case that something would happen. We've had turbidity spikes. We're currently going through a turbidity spike because of weather. But this is something we can't predict. And we're still very early on in the process. Army Corps still has to make a plan and move forward, but they wanted to include the city in this process very early. So as I said, U.S. Army Corps has not set any dates as of yet, but will keep us informed of the upcoming plans. The city administrator and I have asked to be included in all future correspondence, including these matters. So we got added to the email chain. Their conference calls they're going to be doing. Like I said, they're still pretty early on in this. They're hoping to have something late June to where we can have a direction, possibly next spring when they're attempting to do something like this. Another item discussed was the fish patch improvements at Dexter Dam. This could possibly have an impact on where the city currently discharges our effluent from the wastewater treatment plant. They're also still in the early phases on any design options to know if the discharge line will be an issue. So we discharge our effluent. We used to discharge directly into the lake to clean water from the wastewater plant. But now we discharge all the way into the fin stock right above the turbine that makes the electro. So they were just trying to cover all their bases. They're not sure what fish improvements they're going to make at this time. They're pretty happy with the Fall Creek setup. They don't know if Dexter would be a good fit for that. They don't know where the fish are going to come up, and they're talking about getting them past the rearing pond, so up into Dexter and then up into Lookout. So still very early on. One rough timeline she said was constructing documentations, approved plans and everything within the next 2 years. So they really wanted to keep us early in this loop. I'm sure they brought it to our attention because if there was a possibility of having to move obviously the discharge line, that's no small feat. So that's a very long line, as you guys know, from the sewer plant to Dexter.
So you're talking like a catastrophic drawdown like they did at
Fall Creek.
Fall Creek.
Yeah, so let's-
Not their normal.
Yeah, let's talk about Lookout a little bit. I don't have the elevation numbers with me. She did supply them to us. So this is what was in the Highway 58 Herald. You know, the judgment came through. This was supposed to be done 5 years ago. So everybody's a little bit aware of it. Me and Jeremy learned a little bit more about it on our study. So they are planning on going down to like 720. And 720 is right about where the school sits if the dam wasn't there. They've been in the 800s many times, many times coming down. So, and it would be obviously a stagger. They just wouldn't do it all at once, but they were ordered to come up with a plan to draw it down, you know, for the bank and everything. So there is going to be a turbidity increase. We've done jar tests. We can't predict if it's going to push the mass all the way through to our intake. All we can do is be ready for it. But yes, this will be a big drawdown.
It's all dependent on rain.
It's dependent on rain, the current season before
What
that.
happens while they're trying to draw this down and then.
Yeah.
you're
We'll get a
probably
huge
shooting
turbidity
off.
load on the sides. Yeah, they've been very good historically in the past of open communication. I mean,
Yeah, it's not bad, it's the
yeah,
execution.
yeah. So, like I said, still early on. They honestly, from what the lady told us, they don't even know if it's possible right now. So it's possible. Obviously, they can open the bypass gates at the bottom, but they don't know if it's physically possible with what they're predicting on sedimentation there. They just don't know what to expect yet. So like I said, still very early on it, but they wanted to see our side, what negative impacts we thought we would have on it, maybe some recommendations, which we have a plan. If we did get a huge turbidity spike, obviously one of the things we would be worried about is the intake in the river channel, push the slug through. And then, maybe over time it kind of accumulated, maybe doing a diver with the vacuum down there, which they've done in the past, just to make sure it's clean. A visual inspection, there could be debris, there could be many things that can come through. So yeah. Any other questions on this? Don, I know you had a couple questions.
Yeah, and you probably don't have the answer to this, but they're not planning this for this year. It'd be next year, probably at the soonest.
So the soonest is what she told us could be in September.
This September?
And she said could be.
Okay.
That she said they were ordered, as of like 2 years ago, whatever. So it could happen as soon as that September to November timeline is what she was thinking. And right now they were kind of shadowing it on the Fall Creek. Like I said, no date set in stone, but starting at the same week, they start the drawdown there. And then I think their finish date was April, I think, and then they start filling it. So they were going to try to see if the model will work mirroring what they currently do in Fall Creek. Now,
Is
keep in
there
mind, this
any
does not affect
consideration
that.
given though, that there's not a municipal system coming off Falcon?
That's why they wanted to get us in the loop. Yep. So they have no matters of turbidity and stuff there
Right,
because,
right.
yes, people irrigate with it, but it's not turned into drinking water. So that's why they brought us in the loop. And I'll tell you guys, this first got brought up. I had only been here less than 30 days. And I had a meeting with the at the time intern Bill Lee and Army Corps, and they were talking about doing these deep drilled in. So that was 2014. They seen some flags maybe that made them change their mind, and then a lot of other changes. So that's why it became. I know it's going to happen. Is it going to happen this year? It could, but the way she was talking, 2023 for sure is their plan. So, and we'll know, and I'll continue to bring information to you guys as it comes available. Like I said, we're very, very early on still in this. They just wanted to get us in the loop and make sure we were part of the communications that moving forward from here.
Okay, what I see is the drawing down lookout point. So this lake will stay pretty much the same level to until the very end. If they start like in September, then if it's like Fall Creek, by the time they get to end of December, it's empty. Okay, and the Corps of Engineer doesn't start refilling until the end of January.
Right.
So that would basically be empty, and then they would, I guess, empty this one out.
But remember, when they say empty,
Yeah, I realize 720
there's
versus.
still a lot for and the numbers aren't perfect. I'm just trying to remember the numbers I said.
Yeah.
But there's still a lot of water. They would still be able to generate electricity and stuff. But yeah, you're right. It would be.
They can still generate at 720?
No.
No, I didn't think so. There's a certain level there where,
Well,
You
but there's
need-
rainfall occurring at that time too, so.
Whatever the number, there's a certain number that they can still generate electricity at.
Maybe
And
785.
maybe it's 785, maybe 775.
785?
Yeah.
That's only 800 feet up there, isn't it? Or is it 880?
Oh, no, it's,
The top of the dam. It's either, it has an 8. I don't know if it's 880.
Yeah, I don't want
880.
to see the other numbers, but I seem to remember seeing 785.
Must be 880. Okay,
so whatever it is, it's close to there, but they do plan to go below that.
Okay.
So,
so it's not going to be completely empty. Are they going to flush this one out, which takes the pipe minnows away, or?
So
That's the only positive thing about this whole thing.
So just to give you guys an idea, they're of course making electricity right now.
Right.
And I'm sure the snow is melting in Oak Ridge.
Yeah.
There's 4 gates open on Dexter Reservoir right now. So it's, our lake's staying about the same and it's raging below
Okay.
us, or Jasper, Lowell, the water.
Right, I see that, yeah. It's turned, so it's bluer.
So she said this would fluctuate the standard 4 to 6 feet, from the high to low, because this is a
Re-reg.
If they did this, then they would start doing it every year like they do Fall Creek.
I
and
think
draw
that's
it
the
out.
plan. Yep.
Okay, my next question would be, this affects Fall Creek, Dexter, but would they maintain the water level in Hills Creek for, in case you have a drought or whatever, to have some water up there to pump into? I realize I'm not going to take all of it out, but
Right.
if we have a dry year, you're going to reach well, a couple of years ago, we reached a point in December or whatever, January, where they were right at where they couldn't produce power anymore. They got a big rain and it brought it back up.
It was
But
2016.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
So I can ask that if you'll email it to me. I can ask it at our next
Yeah.
meeting. But
I just wonder if they're going to keep a pool of water up there for in case it's a dry year. And the other, it impacts us, but I believe Springfield brings in their water out of the Willamette too, right?
Springfield well water influenced by the Willamette. Yeah. Yep.
So they
There was people from Springfield on the call. It was more than just the city administrator and myself. Yeah.
and the idea of the discharge pipe, if that's in the wrong place, that'd be something they do in the mud whenever the lake's drawn down. Or don't know yet.
All questions to be asked. Yeah.
Okay.
I think until they establish, first what they plan to do with the fish and then get actual construction documents. There's just there's a lot of what ifs and what coulds right now. So.
And we have, that would probably be done in the winter. What kind of supply do we have up on the hill for running the city? How many, a week supply, 2 weeks supply, what you normally see?
For capacity?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, so if we weren't to make any water at all, you know, and they're just talking for drinking water and fire suppression. We have 11 to 14 days.
Okay,
And of course, you know, as the town grows, that number goes down, you know, 25 more homes going in, goes down by a little bit, but. We do have emergency wells at the water plant.
Right.
And that's always an option. Of course, you know, there are arsenic stuff, so we have to do additional testing, but. Yeah, we will have an excellent plan in place before any of this. The engineer is gonna help us with it. We'll get a lot of help with this. US Army Corps is offered to help as well, so.
and you have 3 wells, so that would be good.
Yeah.
If we have to fall back on them. Okay. Any questions of Max? A lot of questions. We just left with question marks. So that's,
Yeah, well, yeah, just wanted to bring it to you guys.
I
Like
think the
said,
situation is fluid, you know, pun intended. And we're gonna have to work through it. I mean, this isn't anything that anybody's gonna work out in a short time. I mean, there's gonna be changes made to these plans as, you know, things are realized and other stakeholders are brought into the situation. It's gonna really be something that's just gonna have to work out as it goes over the next few years is what I see.
They did ask for a 24-month extension. And since our call, I believe their timeline has passed from the judge, so I don't know if they got that or not, but yeah, they're trying to do it, obviously, but they want to do it right. They don't want to rush it. So,
there's a court decision, so
yeah,
it's gonna have to be done. Okay. We get any support from federal government on that whenever for funding for, would there be anything that they're talking about helping us with the water? I don't know.
yeah.
So we talk about shovel ready
infrastructure
infrastructure plans. It might be something to where it pays us to have a couple of alternate plans in place for both water treatment and wastewater discharge, that we can just throw it on the table and say, we've got this $1 million project that we need funded. It's an infrastructure related plan. It might pay to have those kind of things ready to go.
Excellent point. Anything else?
Okay, thank you.
Let's see, out here. Police report you got on page 77. Activity there. Next up is all business. We have a second reading of ordinance 305. Mr. Connolly, you want to speak to this?
I'm asking for city council to hold a second reading approval of ordinance 305. This is the ordinance to update our development code to reflect the Oregon State Model Floodplain Code. On December 1st, the Planning Commission held a public hearing on this, and they voted to recommend that City Council approve it. On December 7th, City Council held a first reading and a public hearing on this. This would be the second and final reading. These updates are necessary for us to maintain our participation in the National Flood Insurance Program. Lastly, whenever council first considered this item, council asked that we remove in section 9.620 the reference to the Army Corps controlling development in that area, and you'll see that that text has been removed.
Any questions of Mr. Connell? Okay, we need a motion for the second reading by title only.
I'll make a motion for the second reading of title only of ordinance 305.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion by Tim, second by Maureen for second reading of the ordinance. This is ordinance, I guess you have to do an approval. All those in favor of the second reading of ordinance 305, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Not hearing any? Thank you. I'll take your thumbs up if you want. Okay. City of Lowell, Oregon, ordinance 305, an ordinance to adopt text amendments to section 9.620 of the Lowell Development Code to incorporate the state of Oregon model floodplain code as directed by FEMA and DLCLD. Okay, we have a motion to approve.
Move first reading approval of ordinance 306.
Okay. Yes, we have a second?
Second.
Okay, Maureen made the motion, Tim seconded. For ordinance 305, do we have further discussion or questions? Not hearing any, not seeing it. All those in favor of ordinance 305, an ordinance to adopt text amendments to section 9.620 of the Lowell Development Code to incorporate the state of Oregon model floodplain code as directed by FEMA and DLCLD. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Not hearing any. It passes. Okay. New business, first reading of ordinance 306. Ordinance designated qualified employees, establish a local appeal board. And that's on 110. Mr. Connell, you want to speak to this?
I'm asking for city council to hold a first reading approval of this ordinance tonight. This is in response to Senate Bill 866, which the Legislative Assembly passed at the end of its regular session. Senate Bill 866 places additional requirements on cities such as Lowell that have third-party building official services. One of those requirements is that you have to have a local appeals board to hear appeals from discretionary decisions of a third-party building official. That's one of the things that's included in this ordinance. There's also an operating plan that we'll need to turn in as well to reflect the changes in the state law, including the appeals process. I have developed this ordinance in collaboration with the city attorney. This would establish an appeals board that we would organize as needed. To my knowledge, we have never had an appeal from the building official. If that occurs, we would organize this board, like I said, on an as-needed basis. And one of the requirements in the state law is that at least one member of a local board has to be a county building official, whether in the county that you're currently located or one of the adjacent counties. And with the operating plan, I developed that in collaboration with the program manager for Northwest Code Professionals. And you'll see that cites different sections in the Oregon administrative rules that we have to comply with. The Building Codes Division came out with their final rulings to implement the law in mid-December. And they placed a deadline of January 31st to comply. If we don't meet the deadline to have these processes in place, then we forever lose the ability to have a third-party building official, and we would have to hire our own building inspector as an employee. So we have a second reading scheduled on January 6th at a special meeting to hold a second reading approval on this. What questions do you have for me?
What is the second reading?
Second reading, January 26th
Okay, 26.
at
Okay,
a special meeting. And
okay.
we're planning on that being,
I thought I heard 6.
So did I.
we're planning on that being completely via Zoom.
It'll be the only item on the meeting agenda for that one, just be this here. We'll open it up, have the second reading and then approval, and we'll vote and then go on from there. So just like the 305, we're going to need a motion for the first reading of ordinance 306, and it can be by title only, or I can read the whole thing. Whoever wants to make the motion.
I'll make a motion to have the first reading of ordinance 306 by title only.
Okay, we have Tim made the motion, Maureen made the second. And all those in favor of reading 306 by title only signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, no opposed. City of Lowell, Oregon, ordinance 306, an ordinance designated qualified employees, establishing a local appeal board, authorizing a periodic independent audit of the finances of the city building inspector program, ratifying discretionary decisions made by the contract building official made before January 1st, 2022, and declaring an emergency. we declare emergency, we could almost do both tonight. But we're going to go with your plan as you have it laid out. Okay. We've had our first reading and we need to approve this. Or we just go to the second reading. I'm at a loss right now.
Yes, that,
Or do we go to the public hearing?
yes, we need to open it up for a public hearing.
Okay. So that we've had the reading, the first reading. And so now we'll have the public hearing. So the regular session is recessed at 8:51. And the public hearing is open at 8:51. Okay, the public hearing is now open. Do one thing real quick. Oregon statute requires the council to hold public hearings on matters where the public can comment. Public hearings are dedicated to items of open discussion heard with a regular meeting for which the public input is desired. The public will be allowed to make representation to the council and given a reasonable opportunity to be heard. First item to be heard is the an ordinance designated qualified employees as listed in ordinance 306. We can hear the people that are for 306. First, Mr. McCauley, you want to speak to this before we bring in the pros and cons?
Yes, as I mentioned previously, when we opened this up, this is to comply with Senate Bill 866. This ordinance with establishing a appeals board. Independent audit ratifies any discretionary decisions already made, and it has an updated operating plan associated with it.
Anyone want to speaking for this ordinance 306? Will make themselves known. Seeing, not hearing. Anyone wanting to speak against this ordinance? Will make yourself known. Not seeing, not hearing. Okay. Then the public hearing is closed at 8:53. City council is reconvened at 8:53. Next up is a motion for a second reading on January 26th.
There needs to be a first reading approval.
We did that.
You didn't? I thought you approved a motion to hear it by title only.
Okay.
You're out of order. I thought we did that.
I thought we had a
Otherwise,
motion
we did
to have the
305
first.
twice, I think. but
I
whatever.
did the first reading.
Okay, I apologize.
Okay.
No, I
Okay.
think I was out of order. I didn't think you did.
We had a motion for the first reading. I did the first reading. We had the public hearing. And so I think where we are now, we need a motion for the second reading by title only. That sound right? On January 26th.
I'll make a motion to have a second reading of 306 by title only on January 26, 2022.
A motion by Tim and a second by okay, Maureen. Okay, discussion, questions? Okay. All those in favor of a second reading of City of Lowell Ordinance 306, an ordinance designated qualified employee establishing a local appeal board, authorizing a periodic inspection audit of the finances of the city's building inspection program, ratifying discretionary decisions made by the contract building official made before January 1st, 2022, and declaring an emergency. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay. So we'll come back on the 26th and wrap this thing up. We got lost in the middle of that thing. Okay. Follow-up discussion and direction requested regarding opportunities for the city's land water conservation fund grant. Mr. Fowler, you want to speak to that? That's on 135. If you got your pads.
At the January 4th work session, we talked about our pending application with the Land and Water Conservation Fund grant. This is a grant to fund improvements to Rolling Rock Park. It's a grant in the amount of $244,000, and that requires a dollar for dollar match. We talked about how we would meet that match, and that we would not be applying for loans. We would not be we would not have the ability for increasing revenues or offsetting cuts. And before we pull the plug on this, I'm asking for a thumbs up for City Council to try one last time to make this a 100% grant funded project. And what I'm proposing is that we apply for a separate grant that we've already tried in previous years. They recently opened up, and the grant announcement cycle is in your packet. This is the local government grant program. So we would apply for the match that we need with the monies that we're already going to get. And if we achieve that, then we would have a 100% funded, grant funded project. All the matches would work out with each other. I spoke with our grant manager with the Land and Water Conservation Fund on this, if we could hold our application open through June so that we could put in for this. She said that that is a possibility. If that's what we want to do, to let her know, and she'll talk to her director about it. And if June comes around and it turns out we don't get the grant and we're back in the same situation, one last ditch effort we could have is to look at reducing the scope, do something smaller so we can at least get some grant money, but in a way that is affordable to the city so that we can meet the requirements. So right now I'm asking for a thumbs up to investigate this further, to bring it back to you on what I find out, and to make one last effort to get a 100% grant funded project before we pull the plug on this.
It doesn't not going to cost the city anything, just time we have working on it. So we have a consensus agreement to go ahead and to wait for the second grant to cover what would be our expense or our charge.
Yeah, I'd rather have a more significant pause if we don't get the grant rather than roll right into your next decision that we would just reduce the scope, because as you pointed out, I think we still have a scope issue anyway. So I would like a hard pause at that moment so we can take we didn't get it, therefore we just do the next.
I don't know if I like the hard pause, Maureen. I think that there's certain aspects, specifically tree planting, that I would like to see us go forward with, that we, in my opinion, we wait too long to do those parts of the projects. And to me, if we could throw out, $10,000 or $15,000 out of our budget and get it matched to get all the trees in place in the park, to me, that would be a win.
I mean, by a hard pause, a decision by the council, not just an automatic.
Oh, I don't see that happening.
goals.
I see whatever, when we get to that point, if the grant people say they're not going to give us the money, or they're going to give us a whatever amount, it will come back to us at that point to see what do we want to do? Do
Yes.
we want to?
I didn't mean a 6-month wait. I just meant, I thought I heard him explain it, that if we got a no, then staff would just recommend a scaled down budget and we'd go forward
No,
like
no,
that. So,
absolutely.
It would come back to the council.
That's not what I.
okay.
I will definitely be bringing it back to you.
And like he said, it may be reduce things that we can do.
Yeah,
with
I'd
the
like to
current.
see the irrigation.
Yeah.
For me, that's number one.
We have some money in our parks, SDCs and things like that we could do some small things with. So, and not incur any expense to the public in addition to an additional expense anyway. So there are some things that we can do to keep moving ahead like that. But no, any major decision like that, we come back to the council to decide on.
I'm personally all in favor of trying to get matching grants for the grant to make this 100% grant funded project. Absolutely.
That's $500 million. If both of them come together, that we'd be
That would be
away from right now. So we don't want to do that yet. Okay. So I think there's consensus that we continue down the path that we're going on. So, okay.
Yep.
Okay. Rescheduling annual city council planning retreat for February. And that's where we're going to set up the priorities for Mr. Cottle and for the council going into the rest of 2022, determining what's the priorities for the budget and what's the priorities for his evaluation. So do we have you want to do it during the week, on a weekend?
I'm recommending Saturday, February the 12th, or Saturday, February the 26th.
I cannot be present on the 12th.
Well, 26th, isn't that the day that you got set up for the,
February, not January.
oh, that's February, I'm sorry, February 26th. Okay.
Jeremy, is there any reason for no on the 19th? I gather that must not be a good date. February 19th, wasn't that a Saturday after the 12th?
Yeah, I have some things scheduled on the 5th and the 19th.
Okay.
If that's what we need to do to make it work, then I can do that. Definitely.
Well, the 26th is fine. I just know you probably would rather do it sooner unless there's I don't know. I'm not working, so it's kind of easier for me, but I don't know. Anybody have a Friday?
Is there any holidays in that month? President's Days or whatever that everybody would be off? I don't
The
know.
21st is President's Day.
We're not off on President's Day.
Nothing in February. Okay.
Well, then let's just go for the 26th. Anybody else have any thoughts?
I
Whatever.
can make
you
the
wanna do.
26th work.
February 26th it is. And we'll plan on meeting here, say about 9 o'clock in the morning.
Sounds good. You can set out the agenda packet, whatever you want us to look at or start thinking about or whatever, or we can start thinking about what we want to do. Okay. 26th at 9 o'clock. Okay, next up is the motion to approve resolution 773, a resolution adopting guiding principles for the city council. This here, I'll speak to it. This here goes back to a number of years ago. And whenever the council was having issues getting along, and there was a lot of contested comments and things like that. And kind of go for my notes here. Reflecting on this year, we have accomplished a lot and should be proud of where we are going. With councils, just like with families, the most heated discussions are about finances, spending, and risk. Councilors need to stay open to each other's viewpoints by listening closely to better appreciate the perspective of others. Present your points and counterpoints in a positive manner that keeps the dialogue flowing. Results are best when we all work together, hearing all viewpoints and with everyone contributing to a final decision. And I'm afraid to say that sometimes this last year, there was points and times whenever maybe some comments were made to kind of shut off debate. And that was regretful. And I should have said something at that point. But the guiding principles, kind of to go over it. I'm not gonna read the whole thing, but I'm gonna read parts of it. To be an effective city council that represents and conducts city business to the highest levels of excellence, we, the city council, do hereby commit to live by a set of guiding principles. First, we have is respect. We respect the opinions, abilities, and perspectives of our colleagues. Transparency. Be open and inclusive. Next, promotion of meaningful public participation. Value the opinions of all stakeholders. Integrity and personal contact. It sets a positive example for the community. Collaboration and no surprises. That means no gotchas or surprises that you wait to hit somebody with when they're not ready. Fairness, teamwork, and accountability. Be on time, be prepared, and fully engaged. Collective wisdom. Ensure each member has equal opportunity to share his or her abilities and perspectives. And confidentiality. Make sure we keep things public that are public and the things that we do in executive session out of the public. And that's consistent. So, well, with that, I make a motion that we approve resolution 773, a resolution adopting guiding principles for the city council. We have a second.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Okay, do we have discussion or questions? Not hearing any, not seeing. All those in favor of resolution 773, a resolution adopting guiding principles for the city council, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Good. And this is something that when it first started off, we were doing at the beginning, first meeting of every year. And it just kind of sets the tone for the rest of the year. And like I say, I backslid on it and I should have stopped some things that were going on. They happened too quickly. But anyway, that's last year's business. This year, we're all on the positive and up and ready to hear things. Next up is resolution 774. Motion to approve a resolution set forth the city council's policy on financing of improvements to the city parks. Okay, Mr. Crowley, you want to speak to that?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On the January the 4th work session, we had a discussion about the parks. And there was some ideas on parameters on how we want to finance the parks. The improvements of the parks starting now and then into the future. And it was suggested that I compile this feedback into a resolution that would set forth a policy so that there would be clarity among city council and among staff and among the public on how city council would approach financing improvements to the parks. I've done my best to encapsulate this in this resolution. This is your policy. If there are things that you want to change, you want to take out, amend, reword, I'm happy to pull up the Word file and we can work through it. You can approve it as is. We can postpone it to a work session so you can work on it a little bit more. It's your policy, but my job is to work with you to get it to how you want it to be.
Any questions?
Well, I just have some discussion issues on this. So I feel like that I don't think it was a hard no in every situation. I think that to me, I kind of felt like it was situational to where we're at right now with the amount of outlay capital we've got and loans we're already applying for other projects. So I kind of feel like the resolution kind of has a hard stop to it in terms of no financing for loans. It can be repealed. It's in there, we can repeal any resolution, but I don't think the intent from what I remember was to just say we can never get loans to finance parks. It was to say that at this time is not a good time for that.
I do thought it was a lot more specific than what I expected to see. I guess the point I thought we were being specific about was that particular loan being financed by that particular Parks and Rec fee that the citizens didn't have a chance to weigh in on. That was where I was coming from. So this is a little overly, as you say,
I'd like to table it until we can go to a work session to work on the verbiage within the resolution. I don't think it's bad to have some guidelines set for this, but I don't think,
because I'd like to make it a little broader in the sense of guidelines, not, I don't think we need to pass a resolution every time we take that. That's what the resolution to accept the grant loan is. So I support Tim what you're proposing.
Do I understand, you made a motion to table and you seconded the motion? Is that the way I read it? So Tim made the motion and Maureen agreed to second to table the motion. All those in favor of tabling resolution 774, resolution set forth by the city council policy on the financing of improvements to the city parks, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
I do appreciate the work put in, because I think it's always good to, start to flesh things out and get better going. We gotta start at some point. So I do appreciate the work into, I feel like you didn't miss that we were looking for some, some written guidelines, but I think it just needs to be worked on a little bit.
Absolutely, we'll get there.
I was gonna add that I totally agree. I do think, though, that we left Jeremy with, I had the impression that we were looking for a resolution. So I think it's just, we had a lot of discussion but this will work as we go forward and, just fine tune it. So just thought I'd throw that in there. Thanks.
I totally feel that a motion, when it comes up not to fund something, or a no vote would be all that would be needed. We don't need a resolution to say we're not going to ever do this, or we don't want future councils to do this. I think that whenever this, and I read it as, we don't want to go out and build the community for the parks, and I can read that, and I can accept that. I just I don't think it requires a resolution. I think that we can, with the ground that we stand on right now, I think that we're in good stead. A resolution can be repealed, annulled, reconsidered, or any number of things to wipe it out. So it's not like they're cast in stone, so I just don't want to be telling future councils that we don't want you to look at this because we've decided that, well, they may decide they want to look at it. So, but like I say, I think as we come to each one of these decisions, I think we can vote on it, and we can, I think that if we vote that we need to take it to the voters to be as a ballot item, and then I think we can do that. If we decide that we don't want to do it, I think that's where we are right now. I think we can stay there. So I don't think we need a resolution for it, honestly. I don't. So
at the time, we were talking about turn down the grant and then not doing the loan. But since then, we've reconsidered about looking for another loan. So that's what's changed it tonight.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm agreeing that our direction had already changed, negating really the need for this at this time. So I think that's just a natural, good flow to put it on the agenda when you did.
I think we're all on the same page. So that's
Yes.
a good thing. That's a good thing. We like that. Okay, other business, city council resignation. Do you want to speak to that to Mr. Connell?
If there are no objections from city council, before I go into a report on this, I'd like to spend just a very brief moment to read this letter into the record.
Jeremy Connell. From John Myers. Sent. Thursday, January 13, 2022, 12:28 p.m. to Jeremy Connell, Don Bennett, Tim Stratus, Gail Harris, Maureen Withers, Samantha Drag. Subject. John Myers. Good afternoon, everyone. I just wanted to inform everyone that I have decided to resign from our city council. It has been an honor serving our community with each one of you, and I have enjoyed my time doing so. I wish you all the best in moving forward for our community and our future. John Myers.
My recommendation is for city council to approve a motion to either accept or not accept resignation. Reason I recommend that is the Lane County clerk, whenever I tell her that we're going to have a position open on the ballot for November, likes to have some kind of documentation to show that there was a vacancy. And the way that she's recommended to handle that is to have something reflect in our minutes that a resignation was received and accepted. And then the next step is to talk about the timeline for filling this. And I have a recommended timeline that would have us filling this potentially on your first March meeting. So that would be March the 1st. I also have in your packets some printouts from the city charter and the code of ordinances. The code of ordinances requires that we advertise this in the bridge and leave it open for a minimum of 15 days. And the recommended timeline here, I believe, would allow us to meet that timeline and give staff some time to review the applications, reach out to applicants and answer any questions and coordinate them to meet with you. That's
Okay, the bridge, we act on it tonight, you can put it in the bridge for this Friday, I think is the cutoff date, so we can get that in there. I make a motion that we accept the resignation of John Myers.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by myself, second by Tim. Okay, discussion, thoughts? Glad he stepped in when he did, and hope he gets whatever going on resolved. So, all those in favor of accepting resignation for John Myers, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, not hearing any. Mayor comments. I know it's late, but I have a short thing. I sat in on the Lane app, and right now they got a presentation by the state highway, and what they're going to do, the state highway people are going to increase the lanes from going from West Eugene to Bonita from 2 lanes to 4 lanes and a bike lane. Okay, I sat on this thing, and there's a lot of bicycle riders in there, and you know, and I guess you could say it's a more progressive side, but they come through, and this is a $300 million project where the belt line up there was like 300 to 350 million. So it was something like that. And so they're going to have 4 lanes with roundabouts going all the way from Eugene all the way through Bonita. That's initially they said roundabouts, but they may go to stoplights and stuff like that. But that's the initial thing. Well, like I say, they put about 15 foot of dirt over on this side, and they put about 40 foot of dirt over on this side, and then put this thing out there, it'd be all good. Okay, it comes back that they said, well, you know, isn't that going to subtract from the wetlands? And the lady said, have you ever looked at Fern Ridge? It's nothing but a wetland, you know, so you're not going to be losing that much. And then they said, how well, I don't see an environmental study. And I didn't know this, but they said state agencies can decide whether or not they require an environmental study. And so then the Lane Act said, well, can this all come back to us for approval? And they said they would bring it back for them to review. So otherwise, you know, the state's going to do it, and they're looking 2 to 3 years. The reason for it, listening to the mayor of Bonita, he says that strip out through there has like, I think last year had 82 serious accidents. And most of them were people were crossing the center line, so it'd be a barrier up there like that. So, you know, whenever you get the best ice cream in town, somebody doesn't like the spoon they have to eat it with. So anyway, you know, I listen to these things, and
When are we gonna widen 58?
you know, that would be a good thing too. I would agree with you.
We had 82 accidents last week.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's right.
Last month, there's been some bad ones up there. Yep, that's something, I'm getting ready to send a little thing off to the local head lady, so. But anyway, that's, my mayor comments, public comments, anything like that, anybody want to submit anything, say anything? Okay, not hearing anything, not seeing anything. Next, we'll be going into, oh, there you are.
Okay, what public comment are we on about now? Because it's kind of disconvoluted where we're at on the program here. But I have a question about what you're just talking about, the parks, okay? Now, are we going to raise money, or are we not going to raise money, or are we going to work within some kind of a smaller budget to do a little bit on the parks? We haven't had the Parks Committee meeting that we were hoping to have, which would have been kind of informative for us, so we don't know what you've been discussing. And, you know, we worked very diligently on the Parks Committee to try and improve and work very hard on this. And the priority set many years ago was that Paul Fisher Park was the priority park to work on first. And we've got these drawings that came down that we wanted to discuss, and we haven't had an opportunity to discuss as the Parks Committee because the drawings that came are nothing like what we proposed. And here we are talking about, I don't know what we're talking about, but I really feel that we need to have a discussion on where we're at with the parks, particularly Paul Fisher Park, and the financing and where we are with the financing, if any, as to how we're going to proceed, because that was designated as a priority park to work on because of the kids. We can put off Rolling Rock to some degree and do a small amount there within our budget, particularly the water for now. But we really need to address it through the Parks Committee, and I would really appreciate it if we could have a Parks Committee meeting with you guys and know where we're coming from, the ideas that we're trying to put to you, which have been overlooked, obviously, with the drawings that came down. So, you know, I'm just leaving that as my feeling as where we're at as Parks Committee members here, and what we decided we would want to see, and which was approved, that we would have protection for the kids, and it's not on the drawings. Anyway, that's enough. It's late, but I would like that to be in the record if you could, please.
I think the Parks Committee should meet first.
We haven't met.
I
We've tried to meet, Mr. Mayor.
No, I don't, well,
Yeah, we've tried to.
so what you're saying is that the Parks Committee doesn't meet, could the council take over for the Parks Committee?
No, I'm not saying that. We've had pre-designated dates that had to be postponed,
Okay.
and we were to get 2 more dates put down, and we haven't been a chance to meet.
Right.
And we have met several times, and we met and we discussed with the city council some time ago. And we were advised to go back to the Parks Committee.
Right.
And you know, we haven't got it.
We need something back from you, because what we did, we started this like a year ago with an idea that we get involved and take over some of the Parks Committee's duties, functions, whatever. And so we've gone nowhere, you know, because as a council, we're waiting on input from the parks people. So
No, Mr. Mayor, I disagree with you on that.
okay.
I really do.
Okay.
That's not how it's been at all. We met diligently and we had proposals of what needed to be done.
Okay.
And at the last meeting, we were at the point of trying to see how we could raise the money and who would do it. And then it fell down because we couldn't have a meeting, and we haven't had a meeting since. And we would like that.
I would say work with the city administrator with your points and things, and
Oh, that's correct. Well, that's what we do.
and then bring them to
We've
us.
been doing this a long time, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah,
We know
okay.
the procedure,
Yeah.
and we're waiting for the
then
opportunity
in
from
that
the city
case, you should-
administrator
In that
to
case,
get a
you
date
should,
for us.
in that case, you should have a set number of things that you're looking to
We do.
Okay,
Listen, I don't want to
I'll
be
let-
rude, but we know what we're doing, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
We've done this for quite a while,
okay.
and we're not just kids from around the block at
Okay.
all.
I'm not saying you're not, but what I'm saying is give it to the city administrator and put it on the next agenda and we'll discuss it.
We have done that. We've had our own agenda to put forward of what we'd like to see, and then we were not able to.
Okay, then he should have it. Then I'm asking the city administrator to bring your package. to
You
us.
told us to come back for a meeting. the last city council meeting, we were-
You sit the Parks Committee to
Mr.
me.
Mayor,
Yes.
May I jump in for just a
Okay.
second? Mr. Wild, unfortunately, we want to schedule one. I've been very, very busy.
I understand that,
It's
yeah.
been all.
I'm just saying what happened, and that's why we haven't been able to
Yes,
meet.
yes, sir.
And I agree with that, that's fine.
I'll be
but-
reaching out to you very
Need to
soon
know,
to
yeah.
schedule something.
Sure.
It's very important to me too. And we're gonna,
I'm not saying no to it. I don't think that we should be making your decisions. You should be bringing your decisions to us. The last time we had trees, but we wanted to put a canopy up, maybe didn't want trees, maybe over here. And so I
Right.
heard maybes and shouldn't we? So I think that
Well, it's not for us to say that.
we
what it has
gotta,
to be.
we
There
reach
have
a
to be
point where
suggestions.
we're gonna say, yes, we will fund that. We think we should go together with it. If we have something that he can present to us that we can act on. That's all we're asking.
I think what we need to do as a council is we need to task the city administrator and possibly Max with getting some cost estimates for some shade covers for the playground area at.
Well, they didn't decide which one
A
they want.
Parks Committee meeting. I think that's what he's asking for. I
Right,
don't
that's
think
what
it's
we were
happened
talking
for a lot
about,
of
you see,
reasons.
because that was another alternative.
But I think one of the big issues right now is we're already looking at irrigation. We're already looking at trees, Hall's working on that. I think the third leg of this that we're looking at for Paul Fisher is the shade covers in the short term to resolve the lack of shade for the children at the playground.
That's it.
Right. And that's what we're
Bring us
coming
back,
up
bring
with,
us back something.
With our
We need to schedule a
suggestions.
Parks Committee meeting, right?
And I also would like to say
Jeremy?
that the discussions had tonight regarding financing were specifically regarding rolling loan. So when we're talking about financing these loans, the matching, that was specifically for rolling loan. It is just so you have clarification.
Okay. Yes.
Because of COVID, we didn't even meet for a whole year, okay?
Okay.
And since then, a member has resigned from the committee.
Okay.
And then we get together and I have I'll own up to 2 cancellations because of my illness and an unexpected surgery. But then it comes along, well, we don't have a quorum, so we can't have a meeting. Well, I don't understand that. We can still have a meeting and discuss stuff. Okay? So stop canceling the meetings.
I didn't cancel one.
I know. City administrator.
I say, take your ideas and points to him, and if they can't have a meeting, he can send out a packet to the people for them to review and give input back on that.
We're trying to get a meeting scheduled. We want it scheduled as usual, like it was the first Thursday of the month at 7 p.m.
Yeah.
That's what we want.
Okay.
All right?
Oh, that's perfectly with me. I don't have a problem with that.
Stop canceling the damn meetings. Even if we don't have a quorum, so what? The guy, whoever doesn't make it, can read from the minutes. All right?
Well, don't ask me.
Well,
Just-
well, you're the one doing all the talking though.
Because we're talking to him. But no, what I'm saying is if you have ideas and concepts and you haven't, and you can't have a quorum to put them together, at least give something to the city administrator to bring to us.
Well, that would be great if he'd stop canceling the meetings. Okay? And then we would get together, because yes, there's a lot to be discussed as far as the trees, all that stuff. We're way behind.
I agree.
But stop canceling the damn meetings. I don't care who doesn't show up. They can read from the minutes. And we, at least we can start a discussion on what we should do and not do. All right?
You have some applicants, I believe, for the Parks Committee.
that's correct.
Okay, so there they maybe put those on the agenda, bring them back to us, and we can add some bodies back in on the Parks Committee to get them up to our quorum.
Is there any way we could throw that into the Zoom meeting on the 26th? I feel like approval of committee members is generally a pretty short process and pretty easy to process. And if that would assist them in having a meeting the first
That way they
Thursday
can
of
have a
February, that
Yep,
would make
yep.
that easier.
Exactly.
We can certainly do that. My hope was that to give the Parks Committee a chance to meet with these folks, that was on their agenda for earlier this month, since there wasn't a quorum that was going to be there. You know, there's really no act, they wouldn't be able to take any action on recommending anybody, so that's why it was canceled. But I'm happy to put it on for the 26th if you want to do it that way.
Do
or-
you guys have any issues with us looking at the Parks Committee applicants and going through the approval process without you guys vetting them, or do you guys feel like you need to vet them first?
Well,
I'd like to at least meet them.
you know.
You might already know them.
Okay, then that would. Then I would say that take that to the Parks Committee on their first Monday.
How many applicants do we have?
Three.
And we're trying to fill how many positions? Just one?
I think it's one, isn't it? Yeah.
Okay.
And then that can
What does that mean?
come back to us on the
I'm not sure if it's Tony.
Tuesday possibly.
Not sure who, if I Tony.
All right,
Who resigned from the Parks Committee?
The gal, I forget her name.
Okay, so you guys have
Tony.
Tony,
Yeah, Tony, Joe,
Tony and Joe.
myself,
Yeah.
Bill.
So what's the decision here? We're going to have our meeting first on the first Monday of February.
Well, it sounds like you guys could have a quorum if everybody could make it on the first Thursday in February.
Monday. Thursday, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I've changed that many times.
yeah. So it sounds like you guys do have enough. If everybody shows up, you guys do have a quorum. So I'd be willing to wait. I was trying to offer you another committee member to make it easier to have a quorum. But if you guys can have enough people to have a quorum, maybe that's the day where you guys meet the applicants and then bring us back your recommendation.
I was supposed to have the last meeting and I couldn't make it.
Okay.
For some reason.
So we want to support you guys in the best way we can.
Because it is a very active working committee.
that works.
So you're satisfied with attempting to hold a meeting in the beginning of February
Right.
to vet the three applicants and then bring us back a recommendation for us to make a decision
Correct.
in our meeting and not have us decide on the 26th of January.
Yeah, I think it's better because you've got your hands full with this is what we're doing.
With no cancellation.
Third, February 3rd.
Is that
Okay,
first
we're on the
Thursday?
same page
Yeah,
there.
I'll be out of town that day.
Okay, we're going to be adjourning and going into executive session. We'll be coming out of executive session to make a decision. The executive session shouldn't take 30 minutes, I wouldn't say 15 to 20, maybe 30, it says here. But a reminder to the council that only the items in the executive session can be discussed, everything, nothing else besides the topic that's listed. If any comments are made outside of the executive session topic, those all become public knowledge and available to the public to read. So we want to make sure that we stay on the single topic that's listed here. For that, we're recessed at 9:33.